CM Punk drops the latest tease that he could be set to return to professional wrestling in the coming weeks with another story on Instagram. MJF, is he taking things too far with some of the things he's been doing with the AEW audience? One WWE Hall of Famer does think he is. A new AEW show reportedly has been agreed with WarnerBros Discovery and could be set to debut soon. Chris Jericho reveals the backstage details behind his Ring of Honor World Championship reign late last year. QTV is set to debut on Dynamite this coming week, and it's also going to reveal what happened with Wardlow's TNT Championship that was stolen from his car. Matt Hardy reveals that Christian Cage did not undergo surgery on his injury, instead opting to rehab. Rampage will have 2 episodes that air outside of its normal time slot. Jade Cargill is set to defend the TBS Championship in an open challenge this week, and we've got details on who her challengers could indeed be. Dax Harwood reveals the lengths that AEW went to keep FTR's return at Revolution last week a surprise. And Paul White reveals he wants to face Kenny Omega. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into in the world of All Elite Wrestling. And we start off talking once again about the possible return of CM Punk. The former 2-time AEW World Champion continues to hint that he may not be done with professional wrestling just yet. CM Punk may have teased his possible return to professional wrestling, of course, at AEW All Out. CM Punk was defeated Jon Moxley to become a 2-time AEW World Champion. However, the talk of the wrestling world was far more concerned with what happened after the pay-per-view went off the air. At the post-all-out media scrum, Punk had a scathing tirade on Colt Cabana, Scott Colton, Hangman Adam Page, Kenny Omega, and the Young Bucks, the AEW EVPs. This led to a backstage brawl between Punk, Ace Steel, and the Elite that then became known as Brawl Out by some. Steel, of course, a producer at the time, was subsequently fired by the company, while Punk and the Elite were suspended from AEW and stripped of their AEW World Championship and Trios Championships respectively. Of course, since then, the Elite, they've returned. They returned to television in November 2022, and many fans have been wondering when and where Punk would make his return to the business, not just AEW, but if he's going to return to professional wrestling altogether. Well, it now seems like we've got our latest tease by the best in the world. In an Instagram story, which we can get on the screen right now, you can see it right there, CM Punk has been seen working out at the gym with the song Honor Never Dies by Hatebreed. Now, a lot of people are reading quite a bit into this because Punk in the past has teased things via his Instagram story that have come to pass. Of course, one was his AEW debut. He played the Chicago Bulls theme song ahead of his AEW debut at the First Dance at the United Center in Chicago back in 2021. Now, this has led many to believing that this is a tease that Punk's return to wrestling may actually be for his old home of Ring of Honor, currently owned by AEW President Tony Khan. Of course, Ring of Honor recently made its return to weekly television with ROH TV on Honor Club every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, Ring of Honor currently has the likes of Claudio Castagnoli, Eddie Kingston, Samoa Joe, Mark Briscoe, and others. Punk's possible inclusion would make the weekly television output must-see to say the least, and also would create some distance between himself and the Elite, of course, the people he currently has the issue with. Now, it remains to be seen if CM Punk will make his return to the business and where he will go if indeed he does. It's also led to some people speculating that actually his return to AEW / Ring of Honor could actually take place at Supercard of Honor, which does take place Friday, March 31st, that being WrestleMania weekend. So could we actually see CM Punk return to professional wrestling later on this month? Is this a tease, or is this Punk being CM Punk and getting social media and the internet worked up as he continues to work them? Now, one of his greatest rivals in AEW, of course, was MJF. And MJF's been a talking point, as he continues to be a lot recently. At AEW Revolution, MJF defeated Bryan Danielson in an epic 60-minute plus Iron Man match to retain the AEW World Championship. Despite the remarkable performances from both competitors, much of the discussion following the event centered on the opening moments of the bout, where MJF took a beverage from a woman who was sat next to her son and tossed the beverage at the child. Of course, that beverage was later revealed to be tequila, actually burned burning the eyes of the child. That situation was addressed by AEW President Tony Khan during the post-show media scrum, and photos were shown of the child meeting Powerhouse Hobbs backstage at the pay-per-view. On the latest Café de Renee with Renee Dupree podcast, WWE Hall of Famer and current AEW manager Jake Roberts addressed the situation, expressing there's no reason to attack fans and feeling that Maxwell Jacob Friedman has a problem with going too far. Jake said, quote, "Yeah, by far, MJF is the best talker. Anything when you do something to a fan is too much," Roberts said about the situation with MJF throwing a drink on the child. "Here's the thing, guys. The fans are the ones that make you. Don't, hey, you fat effing bitch. There's no need for that. Number one, she probably is an FB, and the kids beside her know her mama's fat. She doesn't need to be reminded. Is she coming back? I doubt it, because the kids are crying. That guy made fun of my mama. I'm not effing coming back for that. There's absolutely no need to attack the fans. None. Zero zilch. MJF does have a problem of going too far. I think he just gets going and he just lets go. You can't let go. You got to keep control of your stuff." Of course, Jake Roberts recently returned to All Elite Wrestling alongside Lance Archer on the February 22nd edition of AEW Rampage. The duo has appeared on AEW Dark over the past few weeks as well. But I'll leave this one to you. Does MJF have a problem with going too far? You can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, speaking of the AEW World Champion, he's set for his Rebar Mitzvah on this week's edition of AEW Dynamite, following his incredible Iron Man match against Bryan Danielson at Revolution. And ahead of the Rebar Mitzvah, MJF gave us a look into his life, sharing throwback photos of his WWE-themed Bar Mitzvah from 2009. The Maximania event features a logo based on that of the WrestleMania 25 logo, with the WWE logo flipped upside down to make an M. Of course, that was an idea that was used by The Miz during his run as WWE champion back in 2011. MJF referenced this in his tweet, noting that he has chosen not to sue Miz for stealing his logo due to his immense respect for him. He said, quote, "Maximania Bar Mitzvah circa 2009. You may notice I invented the upside down logo that was then stolen from me years later. I have not sued out of immense respect for said person. Please join us on Wednesday, TBS at 8 p.m. for my Rebar Mitzvah exclusively on AEW." Of course, speaking of The Miz, he's set to be hosting WrestleMania 39 later on next month. Now, more AEW content is reportedly coming to television screens very, very soon. It appears that another weekly AEW TV show is coming sooner rather than later, according to a new report from F4W Online. The news was first revealed on the Saturday edition of the Matman podcast by Andrew Zarian. According to the report, All Elite Wrestling and WarnerBros Discovery are closing in on a deal to add a third AEW wrestling show. It's going to be similar to Friday's Rampage with a 1-hour runtime. Zarian didn't know when the untitled show was going to be announced, but he noted that fans should expect the news to come within the next month. While it will be the third wrestling show, it will technically be AEW's fourth show. The third is the promotion's new reality TV series, AEW All Access. The reality TV series was first announced on the February 22nd edition of Dynamite and will start airing on March 29 following that week's AEW Dynamite. Each All Access episode is going to be following AEW stars on a week-to-week basis. The show will be featuring several AEW talent, including Sammy Guevara, Tay Mello, the Young Bucks, Eddie Kingston, Wardlow, and Saraya. AEW CEO Tony Khan is also going to be featured in the show. AEW All Access is the second reality TV series that AEW and WBD have done. The first was in 2021 with former AEW stars Cody and Brandy Rhodes and was called Rhodes at the Top. Overall, it's going to be interesting to see when this new show is going to be airing. It had been rumored that possibly it could be a Saturday show airing at 6 p.m. There have been rumors that it could be AEW's version of WCW Worldwide, but at the same time, isn't that what AEW Dark is and Dark Elevation? So it's going to be interesting to see really how big this show is, or if it's just more content for the sake of content. But now you're looking at a situation where you've got 2 hours of Dynamite, plus an hour of Rampage, plus an hour of All Access, plus this new show. Could have 5 hours of AEW programming on TBS and TNT throughout the week. And in a year as well, which they're going to be negotiating new media rights with WarnerBros Discovery. Again, it's another sign that they're most likely going to be renewed and picked back up. Now, Chris Jericho was the Ring of Honor World Champion last year, and Jericho has recalled his stint as the ROH World Champion, revealing who had the idea to put the belt on him. Jericho won the gold at the September 2022 AEW Grand Slam event, defeating fan favorite Claudio Castagnoli for the gold to the surprise of many. The wrestling veteran vowed to defeat every former title holder of Tony Khan's recently acquired promotion and defeated a number of ex-Ring of Honor champions before dropping the gold back to Castagnoli at December's Ring of Honor Final Battle pay-per-view. Speaking on the Click podcast, Jericho noted that Tony Khan came up with the idea to make him ROH World Champion. Believing it was a smart move made to establish Tony Khan's ROH, Jericho said, quote, "It was a great idea from Tony Khan. At the time, we were using Ring of Honor guys on Dynamite and nobody knew what it was, or nobody knew what the point was, or what Ring of Honor even was. So let me give this bout a reason to be on the show. Moxley did a great job as AEW World Champion, and I think at the time, me being ROH World Champion, I think I worked 8 weeks in a row. I've never worked that much recently. I think it really helped AEW get out of this kind of weird situation we were in and grow." Of course, ROH TV recently returned and now airs every Thursday night on Honor Club. Do you think it was a good decision to put the belt on Jericho? What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, a lot of people are still talking about the finish of AEW Dynamite last week with the TNT Championship changing hands. AEW is apparently going to reveal what really happened on Tuesday, March 7th when Wardlow's rental car was broken into. Wardlow posted a video on Twitter last Tuesday night showing the car windows had been smashed and his possessions had been taken from the car, including his ring gear and the TNT Championship belt he'd won from Samoa Joe at Revolution 2 nights prior. In the video, Wardlow said, quote, "Thanks to the person who broke into my rental car and took absolutely everything from me. My TNT title, my gear, my boots, my whole life were in those bags. I don't know if this means I'm going to have to beat the shit out of Hobbs in these clothes I'm wearing right now, but one way or another, I'm going to make it to Sacramento and we're going to get this stuff done. Whoever did do this, you better thank God that I didn't catch you in the act because your jaw would be as shattered as this glass is." Now, AEW referenced the incident on Dynamite the night after it happened, and the show ended with QT Marshall returning to TV to help Powerhouse Hobbs defeat Wardlow in what turned into a last man standing Falls Count Anywhere match for the TNT Championship. AEW has now announced that on this week's March 15 episode of Dynamite, QTV will debut and will include an explanation of what happened a week ago. The QTV account wrote on Twitter, quote, "We promise to only provide facts, not opinions, plus we provide the evidence proving what really happened to Wardlow's car the night before last week's AEW Dynamite." Now, Fightful had reported after Dynamite last week that the match we saw between Wardlow and Hobbs was a, quote, "major pivot from original plans, and it wasn't even listed as a Falls Count Anywhere match internally." So there are still questions to be answered as to whether the car incident was legitimate and turned into a storyline, or if it was all a storyline to begin with, but we'll likely find out in a couple of days, and of course we'll let you know once we find out those details. But you can let me know your predictions in the comment section below as well. Christian Cage, of course, made his return to the ring at AEW Revolution coming off the back of an injury, and reportedly didn't actually have to undergo surgery. Ahead of AEW All Out, it was reported that Christian Cage had suffered an arm injury, which prevented him from having a full-fledged match with Jungle Boy Jack Perry at the event. Following Jungle Boy's victory over Luchasaurus at Full Gear 2022, Christian was off television for 3 months recovering from his injury. It was unknown whether the star had to get surgery to assist with his recovery. Christian made his return to All Elite Wrestling in February of this year to set up his final burial match against Jungle Boy at AEW Revolution, which of course he went on to lose. On the latest episode of the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy podcast, Matt Hardy discussed Cage's bout against Jungle Boy, stating that he was happy to see Christian back and revealed that he did not undergo surgery for his arm injury. Matt said, quote, "I give Christian big props because he was injured. It turns out he didn't have to have surgery, but he had to do some pretty tough and strenuous rehab to get back into the position he needed to be able to wrestle, work again, and he came back in top shape, and he looks like $1 million out there with Jungle Boy at Revolution, and they had a great match, and I was a big fan of it. It was a big win for Jungle Boy, truly an elevated match, and I was very proud of Christian's work, and I thought Jack did a great job in being the young guy who's going to be one of the pillars in the future of AEW. Matt Hardy, of course, is currently in a storyline with Ethan Page and the Firm. He most recently suffered a loss to Hook for the FTW Championship on the March 1st episode of AEW Dynamite. As to what Christian Cage will be doing next, we'll have to wait and see on AEW television moving forward. Now, AEW Rampage struggling in the ratings recently, and it might continue to struggle because it's going to be out of its normal time slot. AEW Rampage has had to deal with being preempted from its normal time slot in the past for NBA and MLB coverage. TNT's website has listed 11:30 p.m. Eastern Time as the start time for the March 17 edition of AEW Rampage. The reason for the time change is due to TNT airing coverage of the NCAA March Madness basketball tournament all night long beforehand. It is possible that the time could change depending on the channel's coverage of the NCAA and what time the coverage ends. The following week's episode of AEW Rampage on March 24 will also be affected by a scheduled change. Rather than airing at its typical 10 p.m. Eastern on Friday, Rampage will be shifted to Saturday, March 25 due to TNT's coverage of the soccer game between the US men's national team and Grenada. The Saturday start time is listed as 10 p.m. Eastern for the show. The last time AEW had to change a Rampage start time was for the NBA All-Star coverage on the February 17 episode that was shifted to 7 p.m. Eastern for the Slam Dunk episode, and of course, it was one of the lowest rated and lowest viewed episodes of Rampage in company history. So one would assume the ratings probably aren't going to be great when it comes to these changes, when it comes to these future episodes. Now, Jade Cargill this coming week on AEW Dynamite has an open challenge. We may have a bit of an update on who some of her challenges could be. On the March 8th episode of AEW Dynamite, Jade Cargill challenged any Canadian opponent for next week's show in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. This has led to a great deal of speculation among fans who are wondering who will be the opponent for this Wednesday's Dynamite. Well, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select has provided a few updates as to who could challenge, which Canadian woman could challenge Jade Cargill this coming week. Now, one is Lufisto. Fightful have been told that Lufisto had interest in joining All Elite Wrestling, and there were some informal discussions about her possibility maybe joining as a coach. However, there was never any follow-up to that, and she ended up working a short tag match at the taping she went to instead. As of Thursday, she was not planned as the opponent. Jodie Threat is still a free agent. She's based in Ontario. She worked in Winnipeg as recently as last week. Now, what about Taya Valkyrie? Well, Taya is working almost everywhere from MLW to Impact Wrestling, but she has reiterated to Fightful in recent weeks that she's not under a contract and can actually wrestle wherever she wants to. They did learn that she has some dates she's committed to through next month with MLW. What about Rosemary? Fightful have been told that Rosemary is under a deal with Impact Wrestling but can take select outside bookings. It's unlikely that includes All Elite Wrestling without proper clearance, but it's not impossible that she should get that. Of course, what about the Bunny? The Bunny is from Canada. The Bunny has wrestled once in 2023, and that match was cut short against Jamie Hayter due to an injury. She's been out of action and was set to undergo medical testing, so it's unlikely it could be her. What about Nicole Matthews? Some noted that Nicole Matthews is taking United States booking, but Fightful have confirmed that she's still based out of Vancouver still. She's traveling to the US more in 2023 and is fully legal to work in the States. So I think my prediction would probably be Taya Valkyrie. That does to me make more sense, but we'll have to wait and see who indeed it is. FTR, of course, made their return at AEW Revolution a couple of weeks ago, and Dax Harwood has revealed the lengths that it took to keep the return secret. He said on his FTR with Dax Harwood podcast, quote, "Super emotional because Cash and I were so nervous going into that. No one knew we were there. We walked straight from we had our first ever private locker room. We walked straight from this private locker room right through the curtain. Tony gave us carte blanche to do whatever we want, and what we wanted to do was beat the hell out of the ass boys. And that's what we did. And they, as you can see, what you saw, they beat the hell out of us too." Now, some have said that FTR are reportedly locked into long-term deals with AEW, but Dax Harwood has insisted that nothing has changed regarding FTR's AEW status. So, at the moment, certainly their AEW contracts, their AEW status is still up in the air. Finally, could we see a match we probably never thought we would see, and that's Paul White versus Kenny Omega. Now, Paul White has only wrestled a handful of matches since he arrived in AEW, but he's reportedly planning on a return to the ring soon. The AEW roster is full of names that would be fresh opponents for White, and he spoke to Deuce and Mo about some of the top stars in AEW he hopes to face off against. He said, quote, "There are a couple of guys I want to work with. I definitely want to work with Kenny Omega at some point. I'm totally fascinated by a lot of stuff Kenny Omega does. Kenny and I could have a great big man, little man match. I have zero doubts in my mind we could rip the roof off the building. Hobbs, Wardlow, even Darby Allin. I'd probably have to be a bad guy to compete against Darby Allin, but if I was a bad guy competing against Darby Allin, I could have the place rioting because he does such a good job with his character of selling and fighting from underneath. Lance Archer is another one. Orange Cassidy would probably be fun to play with, maybe tag with. As an opponent, he'd probably irritate the hell out of me, but as a tag partner, he'd be a lot of fun. I always tease the Dark Order that I'm a card-carrying member of the Dark Order, and I'm going to join the Dark Order. There are so many great talents that whatever we put together, we're going to have fun with. We have Satnam Singh, who's 7'2". He's a little green right now, but at some point, if I tag with him and show him how to tag team wrestle as a giant, that would be fun, and maybe down the road, split up into a feud there. The landscape is wide open to do whatever. So could we see Paul White versus Kenny Omega? Is that something you'd want to see? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. But there you go, guys. This is the latest AEW news for you. Be sure to smash the like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Remember, you can join the WN365 roster by clicking that join button, and I'll speak with you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.